Hey, everybody, we're here, alive as we thrive in Toronto, home of Blue Jays, Raptors, Maple Leafs, and Canadian psychic Robert Lindsy Milne. That's me. Welcome to my side of the crystal ball. Have an interesting guest, actually, a fascinating guest, and someone who has ideas and ways of expressing the way she thinks very, very differently from me. We get into a debate, and then we have a very interesting ending in our interview today. My special guest sitting in the expert's chair is Maja D'Aoust, witch, teacher, healer, psychic, scholar, author. She's also a fellow Canadian living in Los Angeles. Fascinating interview. Just check in and please watch it. Now, by the way, I've got a couple of requests. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, and pretty much anywhere else that you get your podcasts, including iHeart. And if you would like to find me personally, you could find me on my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And now, without further ado, let's see what WWRS is all about tonight. A couple of days ago, probably on Friday, I posted a cartoon on Facebook and Instagram and pretty much anywhere else I could of this cartoon, and it was a picture of a woman wearing a white dress or something white, and her hands are like this. And then there are two guys beside her, one on either shoulder, and they're looking at her. And the caption above says, the woman speaking, "Now that I have found my spiritual awakening, I have evolved and let go of my ego. And now I'm better than all of you." And I laughed at that because it just reminded me of a lot of New Agers that I've met over my lifetime. And I just had to post it. And I did, and I laughed. Since that time, I've been thinking about that poster, and I realized I was looking down and mocking those people. And I realized then it takes one to know one. And then I had to remember, because it came to me, my philosophy: what we are one way, we are equally the other. And the ultimate one that I've been teaching and living throughout my life is what we see in others is what we see in ourselves. I still thought it was funny. And that's what Robert has to say. Maja D'Aoust is my very special guest tonight. Besides the fact that she's a fellow Canadian, although on the Quebecois side, she is a witch, a medium and channeler, a healer. She has a philanthropic organization. She gives a lot to charity. She is a lecturer, an author, and her ways of thinking and expressing her work is diametrically opposite to mine. And I'm looking forward to having this wonderful conversation with Maja. So let's just light this candle and get on with the interview. Well, I'd like to thank you very much for being here today. And one of my first thoughts is, how did you discover that you're a witch?
It's my pleasure, and I'm happy to answer that. I love
Oh, great.
speaking on it. For me, I had a lot of strange experiences my whole life that I couldn't really explain using what other people, I guess, would say predominantly, or that I was receiving. So
Sure.
I looked for other explanations, and really, when I identified with being a witch, I had to be around 10 or 12 years old, due to getting exposure to pagan books. I went to church, my family, we went to an Episcopal church, but I never really had any spiritual experiences there that
Sure.
matched what was happening to me
Yeah.
personally, um, due to illness or experiences in nature, predominantly was what my experiences were made of. So when I had a real experience of spirit, it was in nature and also through out of body due to illness. And I read in pagan shamanistic
How
books.
sick were you when you were small?
I had asthma that led
Okay.
to serious bouts of pneumonia that
Yeah.
would go every winter. I grew up in Montreal, so the winters there are kind of gnarly,
Even colder than Toronto and
very cold,
snowier.
a lot of snow. So my lungs really were like,
Hmm.
just not the best. And so most of the years of school, I would spend at least 4 to 5 months in my bed, suffering from
Really?
pneumonia, bronchitis,
Wow.
difficulty breathing. And I had experiences where I would go in and out of my body and see my body from above or different places. And
Were
then
you able to control that, or did it just happen?
it just happened.
Can
I
you
had
con
no control at all.
can you
Yeah.
control that now? Can you
Now I
do out
do
of
it specifically. Yes, correct.
wow. So you have you consciously, deliberately create an out of body experience, and do you project yourself places?
I can do projection. I also
Wow.
have created a double of myself,
Really?
which was thanks to my spiritual teacher, Dr. Kelvin DeWolf. So I use his techniques, which are meditative, hypnagogic. They also use vision quest
Sure.
type of things where we fast, don't sleep,
Okay.
things like this, and then create concentration pockets where I can go. It is energy intensive, so I can't just
Sure.
like cruise out whenever. And it
Right.
does have a energetic toll upon me, and then I have to reintegrate
So that
ground.
means you get really tired, and what
It
else
has
happens?
also, I get really tired and I have to ground back into reality. So, like,
Sure.
after I go out, if I try to like talk to somebody or something, it's a
Right. Sure.
disconnect, I guess, is an easy way to say it.
How do you protect your physical body when you've projected yourself somewhere else?
Yes, that's a very good question. I do intensive physical labor to make
Do
sure
you?
my body is strong. So, I practice martial arts, I
Okay,
do
yeah, you look pretty fit.
weightlifting.
Oh, yeah?
I'm pretty strong,
You
like,
look
I
it.
guess that's a relative word, but I do a lot of techniques to make sure my
Sure.
body is strong before engaging in the spiritual work. And they have to both be at a certain level before I'm going to feel like I have enough juice.
So is your body also protected when you projected yourself? Can other entities or energies enter your body when you've done that?
I have never had that
Oh,
experience,
good.
but I certainly work with a lot of people who have another thing in them,
Yeah,
to a negative thing. A lot of
right.
my clients will be, suffering from addiction, or they'll have
Good.
issues with suicide, or just kind of lost. Maybe not to
Sure.
everybody's not as extreme, but I'll have people on all the ends of the spectrum. I feel like I have never not been me. I haven't had an experience where
Sure.
I've had something else come in. And I'm a female. I've had children, so I've had like kind of a lot of experiences where something else could pop in, I guess. And who knows, maybe I'm ignorant and it has happened and
Okay.
I don't know, but I've never felt a loss of me in all of those experiences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I guess
So
a lot of people will say, channels will feel like something else comes in. That's
sure.
not, I would not say that's what I experience.
Yeah, my thinking on that, when I do readings, and I do, what I always tell my students is that whatever's coming through you is not for you, and it shouldn't stay in you. So you have to release it. If not, you'll get sick or hurt or something.
I do agree with that. And I
Yeah,
actually have a lot of colleagues and friends who do mediumship
sure.
or channeling, and they do get sick quite a bit. Like they
Absolutely.
get sick a lot. A lot of my Reiki people will find they
Sure.
have a lot of illness. And I do think it's because of what you said, where they need to do a
You have
clearing
to
or
get rid of it.
release.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
release it. It's not yours.
100%.
Okay. So when people are your clients, what do they seek you out for? What do you do?
I have pretty much every dilemma you could come across. I mean, maybe that's probably not true. I should
Well, I
open
was
up. I
asking your technique rather than the specific types of people
Sure,
that you're
sure.
dealing
My
with.
techniques vary quite a bit. I have a
So
few
like, are you
tools that I use. So I'll use
okay?
divination.
Yeah.
I'll do astrology, I Ching, tarot for people, and they'll have like maybe a specific issue they just need answers or
Okay.
clarity on. So
Sure.
I get sought for that quite a bit. Some people will come to me because they just are stuck and they feel like they need some negative energy removed. So, like for a
Okay.
clearing or exorcism type of thing. For those, I use my techniques of archangels, where I just call in something bigger. So my main strategy is like, well, you got this
Well,
thing.
when God is your boyfriend, I'm like, what's more?
Just
I
go
see. Oh,
big.
absolutely.
I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm like, I have a hard time with limits. So if somebody
Right.
has an issue and it has like maybe a specific identity, I know that their hierarchy is real in my experience. So I'll just kind of try to go above whatever it is and see if that has an effect, which often it'll be very efficacious. I get quite a bit of efficacy, or I wouldn't keep going, obviously.
Of
So I'll
course.
get people that come in from clearings. I do have people that have health
So
issues that
when
haven't.
you do clearings, what are you doing for the
I do
people?
4 directions. So I just
Okay.
call in the 4 archangels who
Mm-hmm.
I have developed a relationship with. So I put a lot of time and effort
Sure.
into service and establishing a relationship with these things, much like with the divination systems, right? So I
Uh-huh.
kind of view, if I'm going to be a facilitator, I better have a good relationship with these tools, right? So
Right.
most of my time is spent anchoring in my integrity with the tools that I use. So, because I spend a lot of time practicing with these things, then when a client comes, I don't even care about them or who they are. I'm using the force of the tools to assist them, right? And if
So, and you're practicing doing your healing or your art or your psychic ability. So, okay, you're only the second person that I've heard of that does this work, that practices.
oh, interesting, weird,
Yeah, yeah. The
wow.
other one is me.
Well, I can say I have had a hard time finding others as well. A lot of people will just kind of do it, but they don't have the practice as part of their lifestyle, right? So
Absolutely,
it's a lot of
absolutely,
talk and they're not walking their talk, right?
absolutely,
So
absolutely. It's
no, for
commitment,
me, to have
discipline.
integrity, to have
Yeah,
substance, you must engage it as like a relationship. I view it like a relationship that you would have with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a friend. To me, the divination systems, I must have integrity with my relationship to them, just like I would a friend.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. So, um, um, what is the familiar? other
Yes.
than being comfortable with somebody.
Well, familiar it is. It's comfort, and then
Yeah.
also like family, right? Which sometimes
Yeah.
family's not very comfortable, depending, right? But we it's again like a
Yes.
relationship. So I feel, and in my book I describe a familiar as it can take the form of an animal, a person, a nature, a spirit, like an animal, rock. It
Okay.
could be a river, even a place like land or oceans, and then also interdimensionally of different intelligences or archons. I feel like even can be familiars to certain people, so they actually have a pretty wide girth. A lot of people think of familiars more as animals specifically, but I feel like you can have a familiar spirit that is passed on loved one or an angel as well.
Can a can a familiar still be alive?
Absolutely. I think so. Yes. Especially if it's like an animal, or even some people are familiars, I feel like personally. So I guess I'm a little more broad in my definition than maybe some others might be.
What type of familiars do you have?
I predominantly have an angelic one that identifies themselves as an angel, whatever that might mean. So I also do get nature ones. I have relationships with some rivers that are very intense for me, where they'll communicate information. Like I've had several rivers near where I live, and then also the Ohio River
What
has a
do they
lot to say.
what do they say to you?
The Ohio River showed me that it's very upset at how many dead bodies it has to carry. The Ohio River's message was a bummer. I'll tell you right now. It was trying to tell me, it was pleading me its case of how it doesn't want people putting the bodies of their dead into it anymore.
Oh, does that mean killing somebody and throwing him in the river?
That is exactly correct.
And the river is getting fed up with that.
It's fed up with it. It's asking us to stop it.
Are we listening?
I hope so. I'm listening. I'm listening, and I hope everyone else is. And it said it's been happening a while. It showed me images of Native Americans getting murdered in the Ohio River. It was trying to show me that this has got to stop, and it keeps going on. And it was showing me. And then, like, I went on Google and I saw that a lot of bodies seem to be dumped in the Ohio River from murder victims still to this day. And it was trying to plead a case that it wants human beings to stop dumping blood into the rivers because it's
What can we
messing
do?
up. I think the best way, it's hard, right? Because I certainly haven't ever dumped anybody in a river, but then I'm
Yeah.
like, why is it telling me? And then what is my duty to try to
Yeah.
stop it, right?
Yeah.
Part of it I see is to listen, tell other people like we're doing today, and then other people will hear also, and to give the river love and compassion. And then I try to work spiritually to help people raise up their vibrations. I feel like, honestly, am I going to stop murderers? Right. And this probably might be something every spiritual worker has to come to, like our impotence, right? Maybe you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Like, what can we do to prevent these shadowy behaviors of our fellow human beings? If we're not politicians, if we're not lawyers, if we're not punitive warriors
Right.
going about being vigilantes. For me, I do the work on interdimensional levels where I try to make prayers to raise people
Okay.
up, to bring them into their
Okay.
conscience, to
Okay.
bring their ancestors into their awareness, to help them listen. So
Wow.
for me personally, all I've been able to really grab onto to what do you do is try to listen myself and then help other people listen.
Okay.
What about you? Do you have any like things you get in terms of
Well,
insight there?
I'm um uh rather simple, and I don't think in terms of other dimensions or world hunger or war. I just take care of the person in front of me, and
Oh, that's good.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's who I can help. That's who I can help change. And that really, and that's really my focus. So in your areas, I'm not quite as sophisticated because I'm, just that narrow thing. So, and my thing is being kind
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and being, and I've taken up as a hobby every day to be kind, and to be kind to people that I dislike and
Yeah.
or find disgusting or offensive or whatever. I do my best to do those things too.
That's very powerful as well. The focus, right? That's funny. It's very masculine. The
Is it?
masculine focuses on
Is it?
one,
Yeah.
and the feminine kind of goes bigger to
Okay.
the
Sure.
multitasker.
Sure.
But that
Yes.
divine masculine energy, I feel like is its superpower is that focal concentration, right? The
Yeah.
arrow of
And
Eva.
and that's who I can help.
Yeah,
I can help the person that's dying in front of me.
that's
I can't
beautiful.
save the world.
Right.
That's been my feeling. So
Yeah.
I've been a professional psychic for 57 years.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, yeah, it seems like it. So
Well, and that spreads in a net as well. When you help one person, it's not just one person,
well,
it's
that's right.
everyone that person is connected to
That's
as
right.
well.
It's like throwing a stone in a pond or dropping,
Very
it's the
much.
ripple. Yeah. And it just gets passed on. So that's where my thinking is. So I got a little bit confused or impressed, actually impressed with all the dimensions that you were talking about. When did they
They're
come to
both
you?
like similarly effective,
Of course.
so yeah.
Well, we all have our function. There's no competition, right?
Exactly.
There's
And
no
each one is
competition.
necessary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's somebody for everybody to get help from in our field. There, and everybody is different.
You know how spirit showed me? It showed me that we're like lighthouses, or like
Mm.
like how there's hospitals at different locations. So it's
Mhm.
like who's in your proximity, there'll be a lighthouse or like a place
Absolutely.
to go to,
Absolutely.
right? Or
Yes.
like a well, I guess
Sure.
is another way to explain
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have some rather impressive degrees. You have a bachelor degree in, oh,
Biochemistry. Yeah.
oh well, just everyday stuff, right? And you have a master's degree in,
Transformational psychology.
wow. Okay, so what is transformational psychology? I love
Yes.
the words, the way it's
I
said.
know,
What is
right?
it? Yeah.
So most of the kind of beginners of that field were people like Stanislaus Grof. I don't know if you've
Okay.
heard of his
I
work.
think
He did
so.
a lot of studying of like people that were born and how they were born and how that
Oh,
affected who
yes.
they were as a person and their
Absolutely.
personality, right?
Absolutely.
And really, it's like looking at there's the study of psychology and how your brain works and affects you, but then the transformational is really a way to see like if there is a certain habituation or way that your psychology is, how are you going to shift or change that, right? Which is really how people use magic most of the time, or ritual. So for me, I found transformational psychology was very much like indigenous or shamanic ritual to take somebody's paradigm or mind frame and how are you going to shift, grow, or evolve it, right? So that's always been so fascinating to me. And it has to do, I feel like, with how nature evolves, how DNA works, because it'll have like a problem or something that it's wrestling with, and then it'll just kind of make this leap and then heal it or move past it, so I like to think about how people's mind is and use the divination to see what is going on, and then I want to think about how are we going to not necessarily solve it, because I don't think the way people's mind is necessarily a stigma or a problem to solve, but how to assist in growth and expansion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your type of therapy a talk therapy, or?
It uses talk, but also I sit there and feel, and because this is
Yes.
going to sound so weird, but I have
Well,
come
maybe
to
not.
see, I know, right? Maybe not for you. So I've come to feel that when I have a session with people,
Mhm.
my double and my angel, it's kind of like going to court, where I feel like I'm kind of a spiritual arbitrator or a spiritual lawyer, where they're pleading me a case and I'm listening. And then these other things are kind of like doing like a court case of arbitration, where they're presenting something and then it's getting weighed as to like, well, number one, are they telling the truth, or is this coming from shadow? And also, like, what is the prescription or judge's decision? So part of it is, yes, me talking, but then I do feel things happening on other levels, maybe outside of both of us, that somehow us bringing it up in conversation is causing a spiritual court case to occur.
That's very interesting. That's a different way than I do it. That's okay. So are you part of the negotiation, or are you
I
observing
am.
there? Okay.
I am mercy based, so I guess I would call myself like a defense attorney.
Okay.
I'm
Right.
not a prosecutor,
Right.
because I've been well,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I who knows really, but I feel like I try to be humble and come into humility. So I think people with prosecutors have got something to prove, and maybe they feel like they need to punish or feel justified in order to bring some kind of punishment down on people. Whereas I guess I am more of a defense attorney at heart. So I'm going to plead their case and try to reason for mercy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they get healed.
I have pretty good efficacy, right? Sometimes if the healing doesn't occur within 3 days, there's going to be deeper things that have to get addressed or
Okay.
brought up to the surface, or maybe I didn't uncover it. Usually, if
Okay.
you just uncover something or bring it to awareness, a lot of times that's all people really need. I don't know how your work goes, but I find a lot of times if people gain an understanding or even see what the thing is, that will often cause the
Sure.
breakthrough, right?
Sure.
I
Yes,
mean, what
that's
do you
true.
feel? Do you feel that like as soon as they reach that clarity, then it just goes, right?
It does. Well, when I do readings, they're just mostly a monologue, and I start off, and throughout my readings, I go forward and backward in time, and I often see people's lives from conception to completion. Now, I don't see the acts at either end. It's the energy, right?
Yep.
From
Womb
from
to tomb, womb to tomb.
Right, right. But so it's the energy that I'm I never thought of it that way. Um, and I move forward and backward, and I use in my personal beliefs are that what we experience one way, we must experience equally the opposite, just as what we are one way,
Oh,
we're
you're like a
equally the opposite.
heyoka, like
Okay.
heyoka. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so what I do is give people information, and I'm often giving them information about how I give people information like bad news. What I do is I look into the future and tell people the result of the negative thing that will occur.
Yep.
Then I come back to the present and drop a little hint, and then change the subject, and then talk some more about something else, then talk about the really good event because of, and then I add a little bit more. And sometimes in an hour reading, and my readings are generally that, I'll take a half an hour to give the bad news. But by the
Yeah.
time I'm giving the bad news, they're ready for it and are looking forward to it.
So you're training them. Spirit showed me this is a valuable service that you do.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? It showed me that nightmares are like that too. So if we
Yeah.
practice confronting that terrible thing, it's
Sure.
actually strengthening.
And knowing that we're going to get through it.
Correct.
And that's the big thing. And also the
You're
way
a fear healer. That's healing their fears, right? Yes.
yeah, well, what I'm helping a lot, I do a lot of work with trauma people that have had trauma.
Yes.
And I focus on being safe and being in control of themselves, right?
Yes.
And how to get in control when you're out of control, and how to identify when you're out of control, how to get back in control.
It's hard, right? Because I think that what you're doing then, which is the hardest thing for most people, is to have that confrontation, right? Or like face it,
Sure.
right? In a way where
I'm
they
rather
feel
gentle
safe.
with, I'm really, yes. And
Yeah.
a lot of my work is about showing people how they're safe.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, well, that's what and again, I'm not as fancy or whatever. I just sort of do what's necessary.
Straightforward.
And yeah, I'm rather gentle most of the time when I'm giving information, and it's like a healing session.
I try to make a lot of jokes.
I do too.
Humor is good.
Yeah.
Because the news isn't always good, and there's a lot of dark, terrifying things in reality, but they're part of the deal here. So we can't, I feel like some people will try to avoid that facing those things, and
Absolutely.
then it doesn't serve
Then
anything.
That's right. Then it just gets more difficult.
They become schismed. They become broken. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, that's some of the ways I do my work.
Yeah. So that's very hey, and going through the timelines, that's very like an indigenous practice too, right? Where they go through from beginning to end. And that's really how to make something whole, is to see it in that totality.
And I talk about, events that happened in their early life, or and how it affected them, and what it's doing today, and then all the other stuff that a psychic would do as well.
Wow. Do you use tools? Do you use like cards, or it just comes in? Yeah.
I've never used a medium.
Do you feel like you have a familiar spirit, or you're just getting the data? Read it like data.
I probably have a lot of familiars around me. I live with 3 golden retrievers, and
oh, cute.
My dogs have always been a part of my work, or cats. So yeah, I do. And they work with my clients too, right?
They really do. Animals are so powerful for that, and connecting, because a lot of where we get the disruption is in our physical animal souls, right? So I feel like reconnecting to earth, to animals, to nature, that's where we can go way back past ourselves, even into that primordial space that is held in that nature.
So what did your parents think about your perceptions?
I was very lucky. My mother was a hippie who studied all this kind of different religions, and was very open, was an artist, was very kind of encouraging to learn about and study all of these kinds of things. My father was absent and then passed away, so I did a lot of that stuff. Kind of was my ancestor work that I had to feel through and connect to.
How do you do that?
I do ancestor work by feeling into the land and the earth, because like when I've had some of my river experiences, people might not know this, but kind of like you, how you see someone's life from birth to death, the river see everything. And they remember, and the land remembers all of us. It's like we're all these weird fossils in the dirt, and it sees and remembers everything. So for me to really, you can know any ancestor you want, because the land and the earth remembers all of us.
What's it like to swim in the river, if the river knows you and you know the river?
It's like hanging out with a friend, it's like going to go to a restaurant with your favorite friend. It's a very comforting feeling, but I get a lot of data. So what happens to me is that it just gives me all this data that then I have to kind of process and integrate, and it'll just I don't really do it on purpose. It just comes in, sometimes uncomfortably so, but it shows me all these different people and their lives and nature
Oh,
and
that died in the river, or that were killed and thrown in the river?
both, both.
Okay.
And people that it knows, the river will know, like even people that do things on the earth, like it knows their whole deal, you know?
Okay, you'll have to explain that.
It'll see, like, say for you, for
Yes,
example, people will come to you for your service because
right,
you can see it and
right,
get access to it because of who you are
right,
and your practices and your
right.
labor
Yes.
that you've done in order to get that level. But the river has it all too as well. So but most people would never think to approach something in nature to get that kind of data, right? Not anymore anyway. A lot of the olden times, people would do it all the time. If you didn't know what was going on, you would go talk to the tree or to the river or to the mountain.
Sure.
You know what I mean? To get that kind of revelation.
Do you hear voices from the tree, or do you get feelings from the tree?
Yeah, it's not like a voice, although I have heard voices. When I hear a
Yeah.
voice, it'll usually be a command if there's danger. So I'll get
Yes.
it very specifically if it's like watch out, or
Hmm.
it's happened. I've saved children from getting hit by cars where I'll hear a literal voice in my ear when there's no one there. It'll be like, look out. And they'll be like a kid, and I'll grab them out of the way, and they'll be like a
When,
car. So
what, okay, when can you remember when a time like that happened recently? What
it's
Tom,
happened to me
tell us.
several times over my life. It's
Has it?
happened a total of 5 children that I pulled out of the way of traffic, actually. And it was specifically because I had something yell in my ear. So
It said, look at, grab the kid.
it said, watch out. And I turned and just acted without thinking. And then I was also on my bicycle, and a car was going to hit me when I heard the shout as well. So I only hear voices if it's like a danger thing. With the river, it's not a voice that I hear. It's like it's feelings, but it's like a movie, or like I'm seeing playback from a film or something.
So
Um,
after you grabbed a child that was in danger, getting run over or something, after you grabbed the child, put the child in, safety, and you're walking away, what are you thinking about?
I have like no thoughts at all. And then I like have a freak out afterwards, usually where I'm like
Yeah.
scared. And then all the
Scared?
adrenaline
Yeah.
happens. Like one, the parent was right there, but like the child was in one of those little pushy cars, you know?
Sure. Yep.
So the parent was behind and couldn't act fast enough. And the kid
Yes.
just hopped off of the pushy car and literally bolted, ran into the street. And I heard the shout, which was not from the parent. The parent didn't even know, couldn't act fast enough, but I was right there and present. So, and I feel bad because I'm a mom, I have kids too. I had to grab them by the arm, which, I would not want to put my hands on someone else's child. So but I was just led to do that. And then the car drove right past. And then
Do
I
you,
just placed them back with the parent. But then I have like an adrenaline rush afterwards.
what happens?
I get shaky. I
Yeah.
shake, and just kind of shake it out.
Okay. That's interesting. When I
And
have
they
a,
usually don't even know what, like that. Sometimes they'll
sure.
say thank you, but sometimes too, they're just like staring wide eyed and don't even know what to do. They're always toddlers. It's like 2 to 4 years old,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
And it's just because I'm in that location at that specific time,
I don't
right
think that
place,
would,
right time,
I don't think that would be a coincidence.
right? It's that lighthouse thing I was talking about. It's the perimeter. Yeah,
Sure.
right.
So you agree then that you perhaps would get led to a place where, or a situation where your actions would save a life.
Sure, 100%. I feel like
Okay.
that is a capacity thing, which I've talked a lot with my teacher about. So some certain people will have capacity for certain work. Okay. So like
Okay.
you just have an ability, right? Not everybody can do everything. We can all do different things, like you said earlier,
We
right?
all do different things.
Everybody has a different
Yeah.
gift. And I feel like if someone has a capacity, a lot of times they'll be placed in a perimeter where that capacity will be used, because spirit loves things to be used according to their purpose. Spirit doesn't like things to go to waste. So if you, for example, spend a lot of time developing yourself for capacity, spirit wants to see that fulfilled or potentiated. So it's going to try to place you where you can realize a fulfillment of your potential capacity.
How much of our life does spirit control or direct or intrude upon?
This is a very good question, right? This is the free will dilemma, isn't it? Yes, right?
Yeah.
I do feel like we are guided and directed, but not forced. Maybe some people would disagree, right? Certainly, I have felt it and rebelled against it. Because when you see that spirit is guiding, your ego will have like a little like, well, who am I? Like, where do I get to choose? Why am I? Why me? Right? Is of course
Sure.
that classic complaint that so many people have. And then they want to choose something else, but they keep getting led like Jonah and the whale right back to the same dang
So
spot.
the spirits actually control us and make us learn
I think
things,
it
or
keeps redirecting. I wouldn't use the word control. However, it wants you. I was shown, and very much in astrology and much of the divination that I do, people do have like a specific thing that spirit has created for them. Yes, we can make our own choices and go do stuff that we think we want or that we should do. Although I would argue a lot of that gets implanted by culture. And I don't know how much really is people's true desire, but they think that's what they should be doing because they've been fed it, right? Or
right?
influenced. And then spirit has laid a thing that's like, look what I gave you,
Okay.
your birthright, your inheritance, and could you just like do it this way? So I do feel like you'll keep getting redirected, but I don't know about control or force. We get to keep making choices away from it, but I don't know. I do see that I get constantly redirected as I fall off the path, right?
Okay.
So I wouldn't say I'm controlled like a robot, but I would say that spirit redirects is how I would best say it. And then
Okay.
when you can surrender, you can do spirit's will through you, which is like a big relinquishing of
Sure.
your free will, seemingly, but maybe not that bad.
Okay. All right. That's interesting. I'd never quite thought of it like that. I've
Do you
always
feel spirit has control, or do you feel like you choose?
I believe that we have free choice and free will all the time.
Yeah.
And I believe the purpose of our life is to experience.
Hmm.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
So and we have free choice and free will to experience anything we want. The rule with that though is what we do one way, we got to do the opposite.
Right,
Okay, it's got to balance out because you can't have like a one-sided line. So what you do one way, you must do
The
equally the opposite.
polarity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how I see things. And I think that we have a free choice.
Well, let
But
me ask you this. Have
yeah,
you found that there's things that you circle back to repeatedly, even in your free choices? So say you are, and I agree, we do have that free will. I think that's 100% correct.
okay,
Have
so
you found in your life that there are
yeah,
things that keep like
sure.
reappearing or circling back?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And what I've discovered is often, me personally, is a direct result of the developmental trauma that I experienced at a young age.
Mm,
Okay,
mm,
and it's those patterns in my brain, and when I become aware of the pattern, then I can make it different.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And that's the type of work I do with people with my stuff too. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
You know,
I definitely agree, and things will keep circling back until they get that
absolutely.
resolution.
Absolutely.
Healing.
And another way to think of it is what we do one way, we have to do equally the opposite in every other possibility in between. And that's another way to
That's universal law. The opposites are real in physical reality.
Absolutely.
So
That's
it's
right.
just every atom is going to have protons and electrons.
Right.
We can't change the physical structure of reality. And I do feel like as humans under natural law, we have no choice there but to engage with the physical reality. Just like we have to eat, we got to poop, we got to like do these other physical
well, that's
realities.
the opposite, isn't it?
Very much, yes.
and that's how I see things. They're pretty simple.
It's correct.
And, yeah, so
that's how
I
do. So you would think that the recircling then, or maybe if there is something God keeps bringing back, would be predominantly for the purpose of healing.
Right up until this very moment, I would have considered that, yes, it would be for the purpose of healing. But based on my beliefs, what we do one way, we must do equally the opposite. So if we're going to do based on healing, then it would be something different. It could be based on
or it's trying to fulfill that opposition because you had a detriment, so now you must resolve it. Absolutely. Right. That's right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And we have to experience it. And I also believe in being able manifesting as well. We have free choice. We can create things. We have that power too.
Creation. Yeah.
Well, my belief is that if you believe it, you can do it. So the only thing that prevents you from flying is because you don't believe you can. Right. And if you did believe you could, you can. So the only reason we can't walk through a wall is because we don't believe we can.
Right.
And what I do with my clients is I'll get them to visualize something they can believe. And I'll explain, don't set a goal to what you think you want or what you think you can do.
Because that's been influenced, right?
Absolutely.
So it's really most of it. And something my teacher, Dr. Calvin DeWolf, talks about, and what he does is try to remove all the paradigms completely off of people's mental structure, right? So we're all kind of trapped in the mental box. So in order to, you can't do that from within the box that's boxing it, right? So part of the dilemma, which I think is what you're talking about with your clients, is how are you going to enable someone to expand past a belief system while they're within the belief system, right?
So what I do is show them or convince them to set a goal that's believable to them.
Right. And that's what Thich Nhat Hanh says as well.
Right. Set a goal that you can accomplish. And when you accomplish that, then you can stretch that goal to higher.
I'm so Sagittarius. I go big, right? So I try to show them a miracle and then bust out them completely. But you go step by step. That's probably more integratable, right? So I like to show them impossible things that then they can't stay in their box.
Sure.
So
okay.
It's just gonna poof it away so that they can move past it, right? So, but then I reach limits. I am a creator as well, and I believe in the power of creation. But then I also see where we're limited and what those boundaries are in terms of seeing like creator, for example. So I'll bounce it off of like what creator makes with like, nature, and see like, how far can I push it? What can I make go? And then push it against what the reality exhibits past what I think is possible. But then looking at what is there and see where my creative limits really truly lie, and then how to push past those, but to see what has been created already by some other thing, whatever it is, right? So that'll kind of make that game or push pull, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I also believe that anyone can do miracles.
Hmm.
And you can do a miracle. If you believe you can do it, you can do it. But
So would you say if you don't believe it, it won't happen?
if you're trying to do a miracle,
Yeah.
yes, that's right.
Ooh,
Oh,
that's
and you
good,
have to,
right?
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And you have and you can't start off with walking on water. That's the gold medal round.
Hmm.
Right. When you do that miracle, you know, you stand on the podium, they put a crown on your head and they play your national
Right.
anthem. Right. That's what you get for that one. So what I'll focus on is think about getting a parking space.
Yeah.
Practice
Achievable goals. Yeah. Yeah.
achievable goals and
Yeah.
practice them and practice and practice. And then eventually you'll almost always find a parking space. And then you can take it from there and expand it more. But you
Right.
have to, you have to
Well,
believe
I
it.
will offer that one
Yeah,
of the things I experienced was experiencing miracles I did
yeah.
not believe in and did not think possible. So I
Okay.
feel like I have seen things happen that I did. It was, and that's where I felt a bigger thing that was beyond my participation that was impossible and happened nonetheless. So I'll say two things. I do agree with you that for a person, mostly to perform a miracle, you have to believe you can. But I would say I have experienced miracles when there was no belief present at all that happened nonetheless.
Well, may I also suggest to you that it wasn't in your conscious mind, but
Somewhere
in
else.
your, absolutely.
Sure,
But
sure.
that was there for you.
Agree, agree. There's a
Okay.
lot we don't know that's
Right.
happening behind the
That's
scenes,
right.
right?
That's right. That's right.
True, true, true. I've definitely
See,
and had that happen with multiple people. So part of what'll
yeah,
keep me going is like I'll have it happen with others as well. So I'll be
sure,
like, because then you reach this point where you're like, am I crazy? Is this
sure,
delusional? Everybody, I think, will have that happen a little bit, especially if you're practicing this stuff. But for me, what has helped is I'll get like witnesses or other people that are
sure,
seeing that oh my god, that was impossible, I can't believe that just happened or something, and then they'll have
sure.
like witnesses so you can see, and then they all expand as well in that moment, which for practitioners like yourself, you get to share that with the client when it
Right,
happens. Yeah.
right, right.
Right.
And that's how I do my stuff too.
Yeah.
Um, that's how I do it too.
Sharing it with others is powerful. Yeah.
It certainly is.
Yes.
What a fascinating conversation. You know, I think we could talk about stuff for hours and hours and hours and hours and not get bored.
Yes.
Um, Perhaps just both because we're both Canadians. Maybe that's the reason.
I know. So good. So good.
So how do people get in touch with you for your services and therapies, teachings, things like that? How do people get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. I'm on witchofthedawn.com, and
Yes.
my email is maja@godismyboyfriend.com.
Do you have like a conversation with your boyfriend often, or does he speak with you?
Daily,
Daily, eh?
daily, yes.
Oh,
Even when I sleep sometimes.
really? So do you feel that that brings a protection to you?
Well, I feel like I had to let go of all the protection ideas. I think being vulnerable and accepting that the lack of protection gives you more strength than trying to, because, I've come into spirituality and there's a lot of people who do things to try to get protection or save themselves or, fortify. Spirit showed me this is actually I won't say it's bad, but not for me. So when you fortify and make yourself safe, you're also like trapped in a prison a little bit.
Okay.
So Spirit has encouraged me to not seek protection, but to be open
All right. Wow.
So
That
I
has,
wouldn't say that I seek protection from spirit because spirit encourages me. It's not like I go do super dangerous things though, although sometimes, but I don't want to, I want to be here as long as I can. So I'm
yes.
definitely not like reckless, but I wouldn't say I seek protection.
So I hear a lot of people talking about spirit and spirituality and things like this. And then I go back to my way of thinking.
Yes.
And my way of thinking is for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If there's good, there has to be bad.
Yes.
And when I think about being spiritual, I've met many spiritual people, and I have met some spiritual people that are kind and loving and beautiful, and I have met some spiritual people that are evil and worship the black arts. They are
Yeah.
spiritual nonetheless.
Agree.
And so when everyone's talking about, oh, I'm spiritual, I think you got to be careful and identify what kind of spiritual you are,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
just saying spiritual, um well, some people use that as a title.
I agree. It's a big problem, and even using certain words like God or how to describe it is, I mean, it's
Yeah.
ineffable.
Or
But there's so many types of practice, so it
absolutely.
does need definition.
And then there are other people that use spirituality. Oh, that person isn't spiritual because, well, we don't have that awareness to make those judgments. I think we
That's
should look,
right.
I think we should look in the mirror first.
I think that using spirit as a weapon, that's weaponized spirituality,
Sure.
isn't it? To
Yes.
try to create a
That's
slant
right.
where
That's
there's
right.
saints and criminals, right?
Absolutely.
I don't subscribe to that either. And
Yeah.
I feel like spirit is like water. Anyone that goes in it is going to get wet. So it's not
Sure.
actually, to most people's surprise, it isn't dependent on your moral character. And spirit is spirit. It doesn't
Right.
matter who you are. And that's a big pill to swallow for a lot of people. So defining your spirituality, which can take all of those polarities, as you stated, which are real, is important. I think you can feel it off most people, but certainly a lot of people seem to get duped by thinking what they think is spirituality, and then they surprise the person is not that thing they thought it was.
And what we believe can be different than what is real.
100%. Yes.
So we could think that the purpose to be on this planet is to learn love. But if that's the case, then there's another planet. Its purpose is to experience hate.
Yes.
And that would be throughout the universe. And as we evolve, we don't eliminate negative in our life. What we do is we expand and stay balanced.
Integration, yeah, and equalization. I do
That's right.
100% that reality of the polarity and neutralizing
Yeah.
oppositional forces is really where I like to come at and see that middle point where the two can come into some
Absolutely.
kind of marriage with each other
Right.
but you to think really that you're going to eliminate negativity, this is not a physical reality
Absolutely.
in our world. So
Absolutely.
I don't think that's healthy or good for people. They have
Absolutely.
to be able to either do the opposite thing and neutralize it, as you state, which is a natural thing that will occur, or you're going to have to expand in order to be more inclusive of that end and then neutralize it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So let's go over one more time how people can find you, because we did that closing stuff and then we kept going. So
Yes.
So how is it that people can find you, and what are they going to get when they find you? or
Sure,
they
on
go,
witchofthedawn.com, it does
yep,
have my email, and there's a lot
Witch
of
of the
free
Dawn,
lectures.
DAWN.
DAWN, like the rising sun.
Okay.
There's a lot of free lectures that I have through my YouTube link. There's links to
Yes.
my books. If they don't want to book a session and they just want to find out more information, I give a lot of free data, both in my lectures, and then podcasts such as this one where we can
Yes.
share information with people.
That's a lot of fun. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful talk, and I appreciate you so very much. Thank you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you so much.
Wow, what a fabulous talk we had tonight, Maja D'Aoust. Thank you so much. I learned so much from you, and one of the most important things that I've learned, no matter what side we're coming from, no matter what our beliefs are, when it comes down to it, we all do pretty much the same thing. Wow, what a fascinating talk. Thank you very much. Just before I go, though, I have a couple more requests. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. You can also find us on Apple, Spotify, and iHeart, and pretty much anywhere else you hear and see your podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also find me on my website, www.robertlindsymilne.com. Now, just before I say goodbye, please remember, do good, stay safe, and above all, just be kind. Good night, everybody.